Most men talk about power. They post about it. They perform it. They wear it like a costume on the weekend and take it off Monday morning when reality hits. But there is a different kind of man, rare, quiet, and absolutely terrifying to compete against. He doesn't announce himself. He doesn't need to. By the time you figure out what he's doing, he's already 3 moves ahead. The title of this video isn't clickbait. These 4 weapons, silence, strategy, strength, and speed, are not motivational concepts. They are operational tools. And the men who master them don't just succeed, they dominate. Section 1. Silence. The most dangerous thing in any room is a man who doesn't feel the need to fill it with sound. We live in a culture that rewards noise. Social media rewards posting. Meetings reward talking. Networking events reward schmoozing. The entire social infrastructure of modern life is built to benefit the loudest person in the space, which means something critical has been lost. The strategic advantage of absolute, deliberate silence. Understand what silence actually does neurologically. When you stop talking, other people become uncomfortable. Human beings are wired to read silence as threat, judgment, or depth. The moment you go quiet in a conversation, the other person starts filling that silence with information, with justifications, with self-exposure. They tell you things they didn't plan to tell you. They reveal their position. They negotiate against themselves. This is not a social trick. This is a function of how the human nervous system responds to communicative void. Now apply that to negotiation. Every high-level negotiator knows the rule. Whoever speaks first after a price is named loses. That silence between offer and response is one of the most powerful tools in business. It costs you nothing. It creates pressure that is almost physically uncomfortable for the other party. And the person who can sit inside that discomfort without flinching, without explaining himself, without softening the ask, without rushing to fill the space, that person extracts better outcomes every single time. Think about what silence signals internally. A man who speaks only when necessary forces himself to think before he opens his mouth. That discipline alone, the habit of pausing before speaking, eliminates an enormous percentage of the mistakes that kill reputations, relationships, and careers. Most men say things they regret. The silent man rarely does because he doesn't say them. There's a reason Thomas Shelby barely raises his voice across the entirety of Peaky Blinders. It's not artistic choice. It's character design built on a truth. The man who controls himself controls the room. When he does speak, everyone listens because they've learned that he doesn't waste words. Every sentence is loaded. Every pause is intentional. He can study that archetype as a blueprint for how silence transforms a man's presence from ordinary to commanding. Now take this into your daily life. Stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve the explanation. Stop justifying your decisions in group chats. Stop responding to every provocation with a counterargument. Stop giving your plans to people before they're executed. Silence is not withdrawal. It's not depression. It's not arrogance. It's the strategic conservation of your most valuable resource, your words, your plans, your intentions. There is also the silence of social media. The man who posts every achievement dilutes its power. The man who moves without announcing is building in the dark. His competition doesn't know what he's working on. His audience, when results finally appear, is shocked by the magnitude because they didn't see the process. The reveal hits harder when there was no preview. Practice it this week. In your next meeting, say less than you normally would. In your next negotiation, let silence do the heavy lifting after your offer. In your next confrontation, don't respond immediately. Watch what happens. Watch how the other person recalibrates when you stop playing by the rules that reward noise. The silent man is not passive. He is accumulating. He is watching. He is computing. And when he does move, it's with the full weight of everything he observed while everyone else was busy talking. Section 2. Strategy. Most people react, very few plan. And the difference between those two categories is the difference between a man who's always putting out fires and the man who decided 3 months ago which fires were worth starting. Strategy is not a business school concept. It is not a PowerPoint framework. At its most fundamental level, strategy is the discipline of thinking further ahead than the person across from you. It is the habit of asking one question before every decision. What happens next? Not what happens immediately. What happens 3, 5, 10 moves down the line. A man who can see around corners doesn't get surprised. And a man who doesn't get surprised is essentially impossible to beat. Start with the concept of asymmetric information. In any competitive environment, business, career advancement, relationships, negotiations, information is the primary resource. The man who knows more than his opponent controls the outcome. This is why intelligence gathering is not optional for the strategic man. You need to understand the people you're dealing with, their motivations, their pressure points, their constraints, their goals, not to manipulate them, to position yourself correctly relative to them. Here's a concrete application. Before every important meeting, you should know more about the person across the table than they know about you, their company's pain points, their recent wins and failures, what keeps them up at night professionally, what they want from this specific interaction. When you walk in with that information and they walk in with nothing but a handshake, the entire dynamic shifts before a word is spoken. You're not reacting to what they say, you're guiding the conversation toward an outcome you've already mapped. This is the strategic advantage of preparation. Most people prepare for the obvious questions. The strategic man prepares for the conversation 3 exchanges deep. He knows his likely objections before they're raised. He's already calculated his BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. He knows the walkaway point, and more critically, he knows theirs. Strategy also applies to resource allocation, your time, your energy, your capital, your attention. These are finite. Every yes is a no to something else. The undisciplined man says yes reactively, filling his calendar with obligations that don't compound. The strategic man has a clear model of what produces outsized results in his specific situation, and he allocates toward those things ruthlessly. This isn't about being cold, it's about being clear. Consider how Thomas Shelby operates throughout every arc of his story. He never makes a major move without first understanding the full political landscape. Who are the enemies? Who are the potential allies? Who can be neutralized? Who needs to be eliminated? He doesn't act on emotion, he acts on calculation. That's a fictional character, but the underlying principle is a template that real men can extract and apply. Identify who benefits from your failure. Identify who benefits from your success. Position accordingly. There is also the strategy of self-presentation. How you are perceived in a room is information that can be engineered. The way you dress, the way you carry yourself, the words you choose, the level of interest you show or withhold. These are all controllable variables. Most people leave these to chance. The strategic man curates them deliberately. He understands that first impressions are data points that other people immediately use to make decisions about him, so he controls what data he provides. Strategy requires a scorecard with a long-time horizon. In a world that optimizes for instant feedback, the strategic man is playing a longer game. He's willing to take a short-term loss for a long-term position. He's willing to let someone else have the small win if it creates a larger opening down the line. This patience is not weakness. It's the most aggressive form of competition that exists, playing a game that the other person doesn't even know is happening. One practical tool, the pre-mortem. Before any major decision or project, spend 30 minutes imagining it's 12 months from now and it failed completely. What killed it? Now reverse engineer those failure points into your plan. This exercise alone, taking future failure seriously before it happens, catches more strategic errors than any amount of optimism. Section 3. Strength. Not the gym selfie kind. Not the inspirational post about discipline. Real strength. The kind that makes a man reliable under pressure, immune to manipulation, and capable of enduring what most people would use as an excuse to quit. There are 3 dimensions of strength that matter, operationally, physical, psychological, and social. Most men develop one and neglect the other 2. The complete man works all 3 simultaneously because they compound into each other in ways that are genuinely difficult to replicate through any other means. Physical strength first, because it is the most direct and least complicated. The man who trains his body consistently is building more than muscle. He's building a daily proof of identity. Every morning you get under a barbell or go for a run in the cold. You are running an experiment with one result. I showed up. I did what I said I would do. I did not negotiate with my discomfort. This sounds like a cliche, until you understand the cognitive effect of that pattern repeated over years. The man who has never broken a commitment to himself physically has a fundamentally different relationship with his own word than the man who skips workouts whenever he doesn't feel like going. The body is where discipline becomes real, not abstract, not aspirational, but physically, tangibly real. Physical strength also changes the social dynamics of every room you walk into. This is not a comfortable thing to say in 2024, but it is true. Physical presence commands a different quality of respect than the absence of it, not aggression. Presence. The composed, well-built, slow-moving man signals something that bypasses rational evaluation. It hits the threat assessment function in other people's brains first. This gives him an initial advantage in every new interaction. Psychological strength is more complex and more powerful. It is the capacity to function under pressure without degrading, to hold a position under social challenge, to absorb a setback without becoming consumed by it, to resist the instinct to seek immediate emotional relief through overeating, distraction, validation seeking, or capitulation. When things are hard, the primary enemy of psychological strength is not failure. It is the craving for external validation. The moment a man's internal state becomes dependent on other people's approval, he is handed over control of his psychology. He's now being operated by inputs he cannot control. His mood is a function of his inbox. His confidence collapses when someone criticizes him. His decisions bend to the direction of whoever spoke to him last. The way out is not to care less about outcomes. It is to build an internal evaluation framework. You need a clear set of values and standards that you apply to yourself, independent of what anyone else thinks. When you make a decision, the question is not, what will people think? The question is, does this align with the standard I've set for myself? When you can answer that question accurately and consistently, you become very difficult to manipulate because the usual levers, social pressure, disapproval, exclusion, stop working. Thomas Shelby, as a character, embodies this specifically. He operates from an internal standard. Whether people respect him or fear him or hate him is secondary. He measures himself against his own code. That independence is what makes him unmovable under pressure. Not lack of feeling, but the inability to be governed by other people's feelings about him. Social strength is the capacity to hold ground in the social ecosystem without becoming aggressive or withdrawn. It is the ability to disagree without apologizing for disagreeing, to walk away from arrangements that don't serve you without over-explaining, to let relationships fade without performing grief, to set terms and hold them. Most men have never held a boundary under sustained social pressure. The first push comes and they fold, reframe, soften, not because they actually changed their mind, but because the discomfort of another person's displeasure was too high a cost. Social strength means that cost goes down, not because you stop caring about people, but because you care more about the integrity of your position than about the immediate comfort of the moment. Section 4. Speed, not just physical quickness. Decision speed, execution speed. Execution speed, the rate at which you convert information into action and intention into reality. The world does not reward the person with the best idea. It rewards the person with the best idea who executed it first. This is uncomfortable for analytical people, for perfectionists, for anyone whose primary identity is built on being right. But it is the operating reality of every competitive environment: business, creative work, career advancement, investment, relationship building. Speed is leverage. The primary enemy of speed is perfectionism. Perfectionism is anxiety dressed as quality control. The perfectionist convinces himself that he's waiting for the work to be ready. In reality, he is waiting until the fear of failure is outweighed by the fear of never shipping. He produces less, moves slower, and arrives after the window is closed, and then he tells himself the reason he didn't succeed was because he wasn't willing to compromise his standards. The alternative is minimum viable execution. Get 80% of the quality into 20% of the time. Deploy, iterate based on real feedback. This is how products are built now. It is also how careers are built, how relationships are built, how reputations are built. The man who publishes 10 decent things beats the man who perfects one great thing. Because the 10 things produce feedback, build audience, create compounding momentum, and occupy space in the market. Speed wins. Applied to decision-making, speed means developing the ability to make high-quality decisions with incomplete information, because complete information never arrives. By the time you have full certainty, the window is gone. The man who can make a good enough decision quickly and adjust in real time will always outpace the man who waits to be certain before acting. How do you build this capacity? First, by distinguishing reversible from irreversible decisions. Most decisions you're agonizing over are reversible. You can change course. The cost of the wrong reversible decision is almost always lower than the cost of the delay. Reserve your careful deliberation for the decisions that cannot be undone: commitments, marriages, major financial acquisitions, bridges burned. For everything else, decide fast, act, and adjust. Second, eliminate the decision queue. High performers ruthlessly reduce the number of decisions they have to make by creating systems, defaults, and habits. They eat the same breakfast. They wear a version of the same outfit. They have a default answer to recurring requests. By automating low-stakes decisions, they preserve cognitive bandwidth for high-stakes ones. This is not rigidity. It is the deliberate structuring of cognitive resources toward what matters. Third, understand execution latency. There is a period between when you know what to do and when you actually do it. For most people, this period is enormous, filled with research, discussion, planning, and more research. For the fast man, it is close to zero. He decides and he moves. This habit, applied consistently, produces a compounding advantage. Over 12 months, the man with a 2-day execution latency ships dramatically more than the man with a 2-week execution latency, even if their quality is identical. There is also speed in the context of recovery. When things go wrong, and they will, the man who recovers quickly minimizes damage and recaptures momentum. The man who needs 6 weeks to emotionally process a setback loses ground that may take months to recover. Speed of recovery is not about emotional avoidance. It is about the discipline to process, extract the lesson, and re-engage before the window closes. Think about how Thomas Shelby responds to loss in the narrative. He processes quickly. He recalibrates. He does not perform grief for extended periods. He extracts what happened, identifies what it means strategically, and adjusts his position. That compression at the recovery cycle is one of the most practically valuable things you can take from that archetype. Not the violence, not the charisma, but the metabolic speed with which failure becomes fuel. Speed also applies to the window of opportunity itself. Opportunities do not wait. The business that needs a partner, the investor with capital, the job that opened unexpectedly, the connection that's briefly available. These are time-bounded. The man who moves fast enough wins the opportunity. The man who deliberates loses it to someone who was 80% as qualified, but 100% more decisive. Move, adjust later. The iteration cycle is your friend. The blank canvas, the unopened document, the decision perpetually deferred. These are the real enemies of success, disguised as patience. 4 weapons. Silence that makes rooms shift. Strategy that sees around corners. Strength that holds under pressure without breaking. Speed that converts intention into reality before the window closes. These are not traits you're born with. They are disciplines you build. One decision, one day, one iteration at a time. The men who master all 4 become genuinely difficult to compete with, not because they're louder or luckier or more talented, but because they've engineered themselves into something precise, purposeful, and relentlessly operational. You don't have to be Thomas Shelby, but you can take his blueprint and start building right now.